of Colors podcast, Denny. It's great to have you on the show.
Thank you for having me. And talking to you was completely amazing. And it will be amazing talking to you again. I really had an amazing time.
Sounds great. So, Denny, tell us a little bit about you.
Well, I'm a normal guy, a regular guy from Bulgaria, Southern Europe. I grew up here. It's pretty interesting region. I went to study abroad a few times,
Mhm.
and I've been in the financial world pretty much all my career, about 13 years now. It's a pretty colorful, pretty interesting place to be. Ups and downs, a lot of ups and downs. That aside, I'm also in real estate. I was lucky enough to get a nice loan, purchased a few apartments here and there, because I really want to have children and I really want them out of here when they're 18. I don't want them here. So that's why I did that a bit proactively.
Mhm.
And that aside, I also have a professionally orientated platform because I think it's very important for young people to know themselves, to know how to handle situation,
Mhm.
to learn to accept the good news and the bad news the same way. And I'm trying to present as many examples as possible.
Great. So, why did you go into real estate? Is there something that kind of drove you into real estate, or did you have a passion for it?
I've never had a passion for it. It was the only thing that made sense for a side thing because I'm an old-fashioned man. I tried to understand crypto. I really did, and I don't. And I'm not the only one. So I can see the apartment. I know how much it costs, how much it's worth.
Mhm.
I can, and taxes here are like pretty low. Like I have, I think 10% tax,
Mhm.
right, on the income.
Mhm.
So it's pretty good. Like Denmark, the taxes there are a bit higher.
Mhm.
So it it's pretty easy. And back then, it was like, almost next to impossible not to get a loan.
Mhm.
Things are a bit different now, excuse me.
Mhm.
So it's real, it's there. I'm not saying crypto isn't real. I'm highlighting that I don't understand it.
Mhm.
And real estate was the only thing that I was able to tap into.
So, are your properties all over the world, or is it just where you are
No.
right now?
I wish just where I am because I was with an older gentleman back then, and I was telling him about it. I said, "Listen, I want to buy two small apartments over here in that building."
Mhm.
And he was, I think, 80 or something. He was old. Like, can I see your hands? Now, like, yeah. Listen, I don't want to offend you, Denny, but you don't know what you're doing. Once you have those apartments, if you don't want to bury yourself in additional expenses,
Mhm.
you will have to learn how to fix them. Those are not the hands of a builder. He was right. I really didn't know what I was doing. So
Mhm.
I had to learn how to do that. I did.
Mhm.
And like 90% of the work over those properties is done by me, which is actually pretty useful because
Mhm.
there's no such thing as a perfect building. Every house, home, everything has its own issues. But once it's done by me, I know where the problems are. I know how to fix them. And not only that, but the property that I own is mostly located in the industrial zone. So pretty much working guys are on my target, and they actually tend to fix it themselves if something is needed.
Well, that's nice, Danny. So you also said that you have a podcast. You do have a podcast because I was on your podcast the last time, and your podcast is called the Sunday Jam. What inspired you to do this podcast and to have this podcast and to have people on there sharing their stories?
It was a combination of a few things. Number one was I was working for Hewlett Packard at the time, I think,
Mhm.
and we had this young guy, very, very smart young man, tremendous, talented. He really didn't want to be there. And he was, next to me and we talked about it.
Mhm.
I said, "You're not stupid. You know what you're doing, but you clearly don't want to do it. Why?" And he said, "Well, my mother really wanted me to work at HP." I said, "Well, why don't you call your mama so we can take her? Or
Mhm.
you don't want to be here. What do you want to do?" He said, "I want to be a a technician of sort, elevator technician. She just said it like that. And that's pretty specific, you know. You don't put it out of a hat. It was already in the back of his head.
Mhm.
Well, all right. Well, why don't you find an internship and do what you love? He said, well, my mother's never gonna talk to me. I told him there are a lot of people that I know that will kill for that privilege, never to talk to their mama again.
Mhm.
So technically, it's not that bad. He left a little bit. I was clearly messing around with him, but yeah, he actually found that because we don't have trade schools here, but we have courses.
Mhm.
So you're basically paying a company to follow them around, and they're teaching you what to do and how to do it. So he got that, and in 6 months, the guy actually, started working for that company that
Mm.
he was following, and it was pretty amazing. He was very happy. Not to mention, the money is
Nice.
pretty good, and it's those specific elevators that are only in they're made. The buildings are made after we got into the EU, into the European Union, because
Mhm.
the standards are very different and most of it is electronic. It's technically kind of like an IT guy that
Mhm.
happens to fix elevators. It's pretty good, and he was happy. I was happy about that.
Mhm.
The second thing that impacted me was when I told that same story to a good friend of mine who was a college professor of mine. I
Mhm.
was a student and he was a college professor, and later on we were colleagues. Right after I started working. And I told him that story. He said, "Well, yeah, that's all the time." I said, "You're a college professor, for Christ's sake. Like, doesn't that trouble you? That the thing that you do is clearly not producing good results?"
Mhm.
Yeah, well, it's been like that for 15 years. That's never gonna change. So if you have an issue with your sink, you will call a plumber now. You won't call it in 15 years. Why
Mhm.
aren't you doing it? He was like, "Well, you can't really do anything about it. There's just a problem that will stay," which is a disgusting way of thinking.
Mhm.
If you don't like something, you should do whatever you can,
Mhm.
however you can, to, resolve that issue.
Yeah.
And the third element is there's this guy who lives in my old neighborhood, very close to my parents.
Mhm.
And I love him. He's a tremendous guy, but he's just, you know, extremely stupid. Like every single cell of this man's body is stupid. It's like, when God sent you here and you're like, well, you're going to be sunny, and he gave you that personality and that smile of yours. But when God sent him here, he sent him to be just stupid. And I love him, but he's a nicest guy you can possibly meet. But
Mhm.
he's just like that, limited beyond imagination. And I saw him purely by accident. I was like, hey man, how you doing? I'm doing well. I said, so what's going on with you? And he said, well, do you know this TV station? It's a local TV station, not a very big one, but pretty much everyone in the city knows about it. I said, what about it? He said, well, I'm going to be a sports journalist. I said, get to what? How? There are 2 million people in this city. How they picked up you? What kind of connections were you able to pull? Did the Pope go there? How did it even happen? You can barely talk. This
Mhm.
is absurd. Okay, sport journalism is not that difficult, but come on. And you were like, you know what? If you think you're doing such a great job speaking, then why don't you do it in front of a network or something? And I said, I can't believe this, but
Mhm.
it took you 30 years to actually say something that makes sense. So that's kind of the combination between those three stories is the reason I
Mhm.
started the Sunday Jam, and I'm, an old school gamer. I do play a lot of video games to my shame. So I actually had all of the equipment that I ever was going to need.
Mhm.
Um, and and I am happy for that tremendous opportunity. Just think about 20 years ago, that would have been impossible.
Mhm.
Uh, about 10 years ago, it might not have been as easy. But now technology involves so much. Like you can buy equipment for peanuts and just do it.
Mhm.
And you know what? It bears fruit. I know of people, they ping me mostly on LinkedIn because it's a professionally orientated podcast,
Mhm.
and mostly on LinkedIn is the biggest following.
Mhm.
And I have people and they have pinged me. And I go, you know what? I was actually thinking about it, but I didn't know if that should happen or how that should happen. And I'm happy that it works. And as long as if one person is helped, I'm pretty okay with it.
Mhm.
And I'm a religious man. I'm thankful to that this is possible, and I really enjoy it. I mean, I get to speak to tremendous people like you. Very good.
So I'm curious, Danny, about the guy, the last guy you just said about. Did he get the job at this
I'm
point?
not sure.
Oh, you know, okay, okay, okay.
I'm
I
not,
wanted to
I was
know.
afraid to ask.
Okay.
But he's like tremendously nice. This man wouldn't hurt a fly.
Hmm.
But like all the stupid is combined within his head. I don't know how that works.
Hmm. So Danny, where can the listeners listen to your podcast? Where are your podcasts? What platforms are they on? And where can they get in touch with you?
I mostly use LinkedIn, and it's the Sunday Jam. I'm
Mhm.
gonna send you links. You can put them in the description below.
Mhm.
It's on YouTube, but I really kind of don't like YouTube right now because with all those crazy advertisements. If, if I wanted so much ads, I just watch cable. So YouTube, Rumble, Twitter, because
Mhm.
I just can't break myself enough to call it X.
Mhm.
And Facebook mostly.
Mhm.
But it's pretty amazing because normally I didn't like LinkedIn a lot. Like I used it just to get a job when I needed a job.
Mhm.
It was very useful back then. It was very useful for that. But now it's a bit like what Facebook used to be.
Yeah,
So yeah, uh, it's pretty good platform right now.
great. So where can the listeners do you have, I'll say, do you have any last words for the listeners about going for their dreams and not stopping?
I'm not sure going for the dreams is the
Hmm.
correct way. Just do what you're good at it.
Hmm.
Because you, again, I don't want to push religion, but I'm firmly convinced that all of us have a specific talent. We just have to, once you find, even if you don't really like it, you will get used to it. Because my dream job was to be a garbage collector. I used to get up at 7 in the morning every morning to watch them rolling those
Hmm.
trash cans. It was amazing. I really loved it.
Hmm.
But I'm not really built for that. I get cold easily. I get sick easily.
Hmm.
So I'm an office dude. But try to understand yourself. And once you understand yourself, just go through it. There's no such thing as good news. There's no such thing as bad news. If the interview didn't wasn't good, all right, fine. You'll get them next time.
Hmm.
Just go for it.
So it's more like, just like practicing. If the
Yeah,
interview didn't go well, it's just like a practice for the next interview. And just,
exactly. As long as you have it in you and you know you have it in you, you can just go. Like you're a good example. I don't know if you've ever had any acting lessons or something, but I guarantee you that right now you can be the perfect, advertisement face
Mhm.
for every toothpaste in the world because of that smile you have. That smile is just made for that.
Thanks, Denny. That's great. So that's a great compliment. Thank you.
And
So,
the fun thing is that I'm right. So it's like literally, but I can't, I love laughing and smiling, but I can't because I have this creepy smile of mine and I look like the Joker. And I'm not like that. But when I make the big smile and children are running away from me, and I understand that. So I am not that, for that. But you're perfect. Your smile is perfect. And I love it.
thanks, Denny. Well, Denny, thank you for being on Beauty of Colors podcast.
Thank you for having me. It's tremendous and I would love to see you again.